Hello, hello, hello. This is Elizabeth Clare Brewington with Discover Brightside, the video podcast. And Joe, you are on the spotlight today. So tell us, what makes you an empowerer?
In this case, and as the author of the book, You'll Never Walk Alone, what makes me an empowerer is I was given a grim diagnosis, and I tell people I didn't accept it, and I tell people when you're given a grim diagnosis, you do not have to accept it.
Very true. So true. So tell us about any person or any incident that came about in your life that empowered you and the book.
Well, I think the person who played the major role after losing my left Achilles and having 8 surgeries and basically being told I would not walk again, one man, a restorative therapist, took me on as his personal challenge. And he'd never worked with someone without an Achilles. And he said, I'm going to do it. He didn't know if we would be successful, but after 2.5 years of working together, I was walking again.
Wow. That is amazing. Those are the kind of people you want in your life.
Right.
And so tell us about any books that you love to read. It could be your book or it could be somebody else's book, but
Well, right now, not to be too self-centered, but I'm mostly focusing on my book, You'll Never Walk Alone, a hiker's memoir of adventure, tragedy, and defying the odds. And people have said that they start it, they think maybe they'll just skim through it, and they're totally caught up in it and can't put it down. And that is music to an author's ears.
absolutely. And we want everyone in the Brightside Book Club and Film Club and Creators Club to get the book and write a review, show some encouragement, go on her Facebook, Instagram, comment, connect, make those connections. And if you do buy the book, snap a photo, tell us all about the book so that others can get empowered to get the book. So let's go to travel. Is there any place that you have been empowered or you love to travel? You've been hiking, so there must be some great places that you can tell us about.
Well, I've hiked all over the world. I mean, I've hiked in Chile and Patagonia, I've hiked in Bhutan, I've hiked in China, in Vietnam, and probably one of the most wonderful places I hiked just a few years ago was I did helicopter hiking in New Zealand. And that's where they take you by helicopter, a little Robbie 44, and they drop you with a guide into the most remote part of New Zealand where there's nobody there, totally inaccessible except by helicopter. And I had one of the great experiences of my life.
Oh, that sounds what a lot of traveling. That sounds amazing. I have to have you next month on my show because we do a lot of hiking because we want people to see how beautiful this world is. We have a lot of veterans and military and a lot of corporate executives on this channel who want to commit suicide. And when you've
Oh,
achieved your PhD and you've become so smart, why? I ask you why. And many people feel because if they start a business and they've had a failure or they lose money, it brings about shame or whatever reasons people may have. And that's one of the reasons why we want people to discover books like yours and travel and hike and go see the world. I always tell people, get out of that bed and go out there and enjoy. The world is so beautiful, mountains and waterfalls and people to meet and different foods to try. So I love the fact that you've traveled around the world and I would love to see some of those photos. So we'll talk a little bit about that offline. My next question is any health and wellness tips because we are on a rapid fire to get people on a wellness journey.
well, one of the things I always tell people who are out there hiking is, and especially I hike a lot in like Montana, bear country too. You do not go out hiking in a place like that without bear bells, or a bear whistle around your neck. So if you see a bear, you can blow it and the bear will probably go away. And shoes. The Oboz Shoe Company, which just coincidentally happens to be headquartered in Bozeman, Montana, honored me as a local hero about, well, last year. And so I said, why me? And I wasn't asking to be flattered. I was just curious. And she said, because of your determination and grit. And so I guess my clue and my advice to anybody when you're out there hiking, be sure you're prepared. Please bring some water with you. I mean, you see people out there sometimes in street shoes without a sun hat, and you just think, Lord.
Yeah. You think the basic things. That's amazing. Show me that hiking shoe. That sounds like a really interesting shoe. Tell me about that shoe. Yeah.
Well, it's red suede. The name of the company is Oboz, Oboz. And I've been wearing them for over a dozen years. I have a narrow foot. Most hiking boots in the foot, they're too wide, too big. They were always too much for me. And I found these over a dozen years. And then when Oboz honored me, it was just coincidental that I've been wearing their boot anyway. And red is my favorite color. They have this red suede boot, and now they send me a new boot every season.
Oh,
Um,
wow. That
I'm
sounds awesome.
they're incredible, but the real challenge, of course, is that they last a lifetime. Even if you're walking in streams, muddy streams, whatever, you can't harm the boot. And so I have enough for several lifetimes now. Lucky me.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds really awesome. I used to be a ballet dancer and a yoga teacher many, many years ago. And so I've been, reconnecting with my old self, as they say. And I have discovered watching a lot of dance videos that motivate me in the morning, and shoes. I look at all these dancers, and back in the day all we had were the ballerina boots, were shoes which were so difficult to wear and so uncomfortable. If anyone who's a ballerina can attest to that. But today, if you look at dance videos, people have great shoes. And and so I'm so glad we're having this shoe conversation as well. So my last question is, what's on the bright side for you?
Now in the future, I think what's happening next is my husband and I will plan another trip. One of our favorite things at this stage, he used to be a well-known appellate lawyer in Washington, D.C., the kind that tried cases at the Supreme Court. And one of our fun things now is thinking about going somewhere together where neither of us have been before, and the adventure of that. And even if it turns out to be an adventure we don't really like very much, like Bhutan, we thought Bhutan was ugly and we didn't like it. You still learn a lot about yourself and the world, and it's always a learning experience.
Yeah. Now, you've talked about two places that I've been to: Seattle, Washington, and I absolutely loved it. I felt it was so in touch with nature, and it was so green and it was so clean. It just that was what gave me, coming from New York and big cities that are filthy. And then when you go to Seattle, Washington, you go like, whoa. So that was something that had impressed me a lot. And when you talked about the walk, and I could just picture it in my mind because I had been there. And I've also been to Bhutan, and Bhutan is filthy. It's crowded. There's so many people, my goodness. And I remember the same experience. It was just so overwhelming, but my mother was trying to get me into a casino. Of course, I was much younger than the age, and so she dressed me in lipstick and high heel shoes, and because she wanted to go to the casino, but she didn't have a babysitter, so she had to get me into. But so yeah, so I can understand what you thought about Bhutan because I thought it was very crowded too. On that note, we're so delighted that you are an empowerer. You've been on our Spotlight interview, and I hope to see you next week for my conference. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's really fun.